Welcome back for another RBP. It is me, Ross Bolen, here with Jared Borislow, J-Bone. What's good, player?
Everything is good today, Ross, because we're back in the stew. Bruce warmed my seat up for me.
He did. That was a little weird. He sat in your seat for 20 minutes before you got into it.
Ever since I wouldn't say I saved him, but, some people might say that. Ever since that happened,
Hashtag hero Jared.
He has been significantly nicer to me.
Yeah, you bonded.
He's licked me 3 times, which is 3 more times than he had ever licked me prior.
You're forever bonded. As everyone knows, Bruce is a strange dog. He's skittish. He's not the most social. He's a little weird. A lot weird, some would say.
It's pretty weird, but like you said, he's bonded with me now. He warmed my seat up. It feels like, people, this is a hot take. People don't like it when they sit down on a public toilet seat and it's warm. I fucking love that shit. I prefer that. I would, if I ever go to, if I'm in like a concert.
God, the difference in the direction I was about to take this and where he just took it are just so, they could not be. You continue your disgusting rant, and then I'll get to my wholesome one.
Okay, like in an airport, if somebody walks out of a stall, I will look to see, like, did that dude just pee all over the seat? And if no, I'm like, ooh, he might have just sat down. This is a bit. What do you mean?
You're fucking with me.
I'm
There's
not fucking
no
with you.
way you actually enjoy. You enjoy the body warmth of strangers. That's on like a weird serial killer level.
What is it? What is the difference between having a heated toilet seat and having a toilet seat that's been heated by somebody else? It's still a hot seat by the time I get there. It's not like the dude is like. It's not like I walk in the stall and he goes.
Look, I get that, like, scientifically, there's not a difference. But it's disgusting.
There's no ownership to heat. Heat is energy. It's not your energy. It's not that. It's
Have you ever
energy,
been to a Schlitterbahn or a water park, dude? Have you seen what we're doing out there? What we look like, the humans? That's what you're following up.
Hey, the bigger the thighs, the more heat coverage too.
The less I can. This is the thing about public restrooms. They shouldn't even fucking exist. They shouldn't exist.
What does that even mean?
That dude, it's disgusting.
What's the alternative?
As a kid, I never really considered it, and frankly, it wasn't until the pandemic that I realized, like, oh my God, no wonder germaphobes are so freaked out all the time. What is wrong with us? We created public fucking shit and piss troughs for people to go dookie and piss all over the place. And somebody recently hit me up and they said, hey, can we get a national update on the splashback situation? It's still fucking awful. There's pee and poo all over every bathroom. What are we doing?
Okay. You can't say public restrooms suck without putting forth an alternative that doesn't suck. It's not just
go home. Hold it.
That's your alternative?
Look, if it was only pee-pee, if we only had to get rid of pee-pee of liquid only in the restrooms, we would be so much better off.
No, we're not. The only dirtiness I ever see in restrooms is
Think about how clean it would be in there. They could design it entirely differently. It'd just be like a fucking tube that sucks the pee out of your cock or something. It'd be completely different. We'd be living in a different world.
Okay.
It wouldn't just be shit, piss smeared all over the goddamn walls.
Okay.
It's disgusting everywhere. You know how you go into a restaurant and there's a sign, it says something about how often it's cleaned by the fucking employees, and you know they're not cleaning it as often as however long it says on the sign, and usually on the sign it's like once a day or something.
Employees must always wash their hands before work. Yeah, right. They'll do that if you're in the bathroom with them.
What are we doing in there, man? It's just gross.
You brought up a good idea.
You like the warmth?
Okay, let's imagine this. A bath. You walk into the bathroom, and then there is a entire line. Instead of a trough, it's like a cup, like a baseball cup. And you walk over and you
put yourself in it,
but there's no dividers. There's just it's like a cup on a stick.
What?
And you pee into it. It's like a cup on a stick. It's like a miniature
wouldn't work,
urinal.
Jared, what the fuck is wrong with you?
I'm just imagining.
You want to take so you're taking the urinal and you're shrinking it to be 1/100th of the size.
No, vacuum.
And you think that's the fucking answer?
There's a vacuum.
A urinal
situation.
for ants.
There's a vacuum situation where it sucks your penis, and then it's slightly sexual. So people are.
Your version stinks. Go back to my tube. It comes out of the wall. It's got a fucking clean thing around it. Some scientists get on this. I'm trying to change the world here. Kanye is focused on the wrong shit. He's out there like, I'm an innovator. I'm trying to change. No, I'm the real genius. I want to make it so there's no more shitting in public restrooms at all. No pooping allowed at all. I think this might be an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm. But seriously, you should have to hold it till you go home. But I want a tube. You know how Larry tried to perfect the toilet? He didn't because it shouldn't be a toilet at all. It should be a tube. And if and ladies are listening like, what the fuck, dude? What are we supposed to do with a tube? I don't know. Figure it out. I can only deal with my equipment, what I've got going on, and solve that problem. And we need tubes that suck pee, and not because you don't put yourself in it. You pee down into the tube, and it's huge, like a McDonald's playpen level in diameter.
I think that would cause some plumbing issues.
How did we get to you liking?
Well,
your ass.
You didn't even let me talk about
touching
my
the
best
warm
point.
seat.
Heat is energy. It's like, yeah, if a guy pees on the seat, that's his pee on the seat. There's a difference between
You think
one
you're
guy's
sucking up the energy of the other human?
No.
You're becoming stronger when you sit on their warm toilet seat?
No, I'm saying that heat, it doesn't matter if that heat got there from a toilet seat heater or from a human. The heat is there and it feels good. I don't care. There's no ownership over the energy, okay? The heat is the energy. I told you the
difference.
story.
This is two different kinds of people. And I appreciate your take. It's not that I don't agree with it. I don't agree with it, but I see your point.
I think it feels good.
But the difference is
better than a cold seat.
I don't like knowing someone else was just sitting there with their asshole agape, spraying into that very spot that I now sit. That is disheartening. It's one of those things that you recognize as a human. You have to do it. You have to deal with it. But man, it's not great. You know what I mean?
See, I think of it more as like camaraderie with that person. Like, yeah, me and this dude's buttholes were both open here. Like, we were both vulnerable in this moment.
I think it makes you like a pessimist, an optimist, and me a pessimist. I think that's part of it. Maybe.
You said you wanted to start seeing the good in people more after people.
I don't
helped you out
want
with
to feel
Bruce.
it from their warm ass. You know what I mean? Like, I
don't know, man.
I want as much distance between me and every other man's warm ass as possible. That's just where I feel. That's how I feel.
You say that until you're stuck outside in the cold.
You need a good spoon.
Yeah, you do.
I can appreciate that. Look, if the need arises, I'll spoon a man. I still don't want to shit where he just shit. I'd rather spoon.
Different strokes.
I'd even rather spoon, like if I'm standing outside the stall and there's this just ogre, just a fucking beast of a man leaving that stall, and I'm just like, whatever he just did in there was a criminal act. I would rather cuddle that man than go sit on that toilet after him. And that's as far as I'm willing to go with it, so don't ask any weird questions, all right? But I'm just saying, I would rather cuddle that man than shit after, because it makes me sick. I sit there the whole time, and if it's still warm, you can definitely still smell it. And if it's like half the experience is ruined. If I can already smell all of the shitting, that's why stadium bathrooms are so disgusting. Why is half of this show about bathrooms? It's like bathrooms, Kanye West, fast food, random headlines. What the fuck? You and I were talking about this the other day, like, what is RBP? And this is a perfect example of why I don't know the answer, and I'm not sure I ever want to. Because if conversations like this can't take place, completely unplanned, have nothing to do with the rundown, then I don't want to be here anymore. So fuck it. Maybe this is just the show. It is what it is. We can't market it. It's not marketable.
The rundown is suggested topics.
And you suggest that people sit on warm toilets.
Yeah.
Here's the weird thing. You know, the Japanese are way ahead of us in toilets. Toilet like
Japanese Grand Prix. I'm not kidding. There've already been multiple people talking about
the toilet difference because they like massage your ass and and clean your house for you and stuff. It's crazy. There's like a laser, like you don't have to worry about splashback because there's like a laser that like picks off any fucking speckles that get out of your toilet.
It's like the Iron Dome over Israel.
It's complete. It's completely insane.
No splashback is hitting you.
But they've got the ones that they have warmed, heated toilet seats, and like I am so down with that, obviously. But so that's what I'm saying. It's the difference is that it's a warmth from another human being that I haven't chosen. You know,
and I
feel violated.
We understand
in
each
some
other
sense.
because I understand that, but you understand that heat is heat. That's not the person doesn't.
And then
own
you
it.
don't give a fuck. No, I get that too.
I don't care where the heat's coming from. Do you ever go to Lynn Asian Bar?
How did we end up different like that though? Because like now that I have kids and like have one coming, I'm like I'm more interested in the psychological side of parenting. And so something about you in your life and something about me in my life made it to where like you don't give a shit about that line, and it's actually comforting to you. And I literally want to die. What is that? What happened?
I don't know.
I mean, it makes me softer than you for sure.
Yeah.
Like you're definitely better off in the wild just based on that fact alone.
I will say right now, I will sit on any toilet. If I walk in and the only toilet has piss all over it, I'll wipe the piss off. I'll put some toilet paper
You don't
down.
care.
I do not care.
I see. I respect that so much, dude.
I pooped when there was pieces of poop on the seat.
You know when you're getting to know your
them
friends
off.
growing up though, and like you there's moments where you realize like you and I are having this moment right now where I'm like, yeah, Jared can put up with more than me in this particular sense in the restroom.
Nope. I disagree already because I've already told you I'm a shy peer.
I'm a shy peer though.
Oh.
I'm a stall peer strictly.
Okay, yeah, never mind.
I don't even believe in urinals. That's why I want the tube in the stall. I should have made that clear.
You want the tube in the stall?
The tubes are in the stalls. There's no toilets and there's no wall urinals. There's only stalls for everybody, and tubes.
Maybe we can get like a contract to redo the toilets at the Nintendo headquarters and just make them the green Mario tubes. That's what you're thinking about, right?
Yeah, and I want that sound effect too. Every time it swallows, it finishes. You know what I mean? Maybe even that Austin Powers announcer that's like, evacuation complete.
Mm-hmm.
But it is weird how we have all these geniuses that focus their energy and time on completely redoing areas of our lives. Elon with the car, Jeff Bezos with murdering small business, just making everything accessible via one fucking website, I guess. Nobody's focused on the restroom.
No. And the last thing I'll say about the restroom.
Apple with the phone.
I don't understand how this happened, so I kind of want to see it. You know when you walk into a public restroom and there's just Jackson Pollock style poop splattered all across the back wall? How are they sitting? How are they sitting to where their butthole is aimed at the back wall of the toilet? Are they leaning all the way forward?
When you say back wall, do you mean the wall behind the toilet?
No, inside the bowl still.
Oh, this is a person who made it to the toilet just as they were pulling down their pants. So they're not quite sat when they're shitting out of their ass. Yeah. You know how that is. And here's the thing. I historically, on a lifetime level, have been a very clean pooper. Immaculate record until I hit about 33. Mm-hmm. And then things started to get less consistent. And I finally figured out like how gross it can get. But I've always known people that are like just animals, man. In the rest, like you ever taken a shit next to a friend who just like what the sounds, you're just like, what in the name of God is happening in there? I never had that experience until like a few years ago.
Have you ever pooped next to one of your friends in a stall?
Yeah, for sure.
So my favorite time ever doing that, me and my friend Josh, we went to, so Josh had a flight out of Dallas.
Okay.
And I went to drop him off, and literally while I was there to drop him off, like at the drop off thing, he looks at his phone before he gets out of the car and goes, "My flight just got delayed 3 hours." I was like, "Okay, well, do you want to go do something?" He's like, "Sure." We looked at what is there to do in Arlington, Texas, and we found the number one attraction was the National Bowling Museum. So we said, "Fuck it." Now, part of the reason I might have told the story before. Either way, part of the reason that I wanted to go there, like after he said that, I was like, we need to go, is because about like 6 months earlier, I'd been playing blackjack at a casino in Indiana. And the guy sitting next to me, his name was Ron. And he's like, "Hey, want to know something about me? Me and my brother are one of the only pairs of brothers to be in a major American sports league Hall of Fame." And I was like, "Sick, Ron." And he goes, "Yeah, go to the Bowling Hall of Fame in Arlington and look up me and my brother, Ron." I don't remember his last name.
Okay,
Ron.
so this is the National Bowling Hall of Fame.
Yeah, so that story, I met Ron in Indiana, and this is in Arlington. I was like, you know what? I'm going to go fact check Ron, this man. I'm going to go fact check.
Was it legit?
100%, yeah. Him and his brother both in the Hall of Fame.
I'm curious about this. How does all right, so Arlington has this bowling museum, National Hall of Fame, whatever. Now, did that get like signed off on by a bowling league?
Yeah. I think
or they're like sparring ones. Did somebody also found one in like Kentucky that's like currently at war with this one?
This was the national. This was the main one. The
and
big
it's in
deal.
Fucking Arlington.
Yeah, it's in Arlington. That's not weird. But anyways, we get it there.
Huh.
We were both hungover. We went to the bathroom to shit, and then we were the only people in the whole museum, not just the bathroom.
Yeah,
like, we literally were the only people in the entire museum. Pretty big museum. And so we went to the bathroom, and then he put on Bowling for Soup on his phone on Spotify, and we just took dueling shits to Bowling for Soup. I felt right. Bowling for Soup, bowling museum.
Wow.
Anyways, that's somehow a true story. Anyways, you said earlier that you had something to talk about that had nothing to do with poo.
I do, but we had to do an ad. Today's episode is brought to you by Calm.com. Back in 2020, I got into meditation for the first time. It was definitely something I kind of judged as weird before I tried it. And holy shit, has it changed my ability to stay centered and calm throughout the course of my stressful life. So if meditation was one of those things you planned on getting around to in 2022 and it didn't quite happen for you, maybe now is the time. With Calm, you can jumpstart or continue your meditation practice and find peace of mind today. We're partnering with Calm, the #1 mental wellness app, to give you the tools that improve the way you feel, reduce stress and anxiety through guided meditations, improve focus with curated music tracks, and rest and recharge with Calm's imaginative sleep stories for children and adults. There's even new daily movement sessions designed to relax your body and uplift your mind. If you go to calm.com/RBP, you'll get a special offer, 40% off. A Calm premium subscription, and new content is added every week. Over 100 million people around the world use Calm to take care of their minds. Calm is ready to help you stress less, sleep more, and live a happier, healthier life. RBP gang, Calm is offering an exclusive offer of 40% off a Calm premium subscription at calm.com/RBP. Go to calm.com/RBP for 40% off unlimited access to Calm's entire library. That's calm.com/RBP.
Okay, before you get into that, whatever you're going to talk about, I just had a thought.
Yeah.
Not trying to take over the episode. I was thinking about how a human body creates heat, because we talk about sitting on the toilet seat.
Jesus Christ.
Is the reason a human body exerts heat is because there's all these things happening inside our body that are like using up energy, like digestion and shit, and it uses up energy, and so the energy gets used up, and then we are putting out the heat from that? Is that why our bodies are a temperature?
Did you just smoke a doobie in the bathroom? And what the name of God makes you think I would know the answer to that question of all people?
I don't know. You
like I'm some kind of Mr. Scientist over here.
You went to college.
I did go to college. Okay, so when Jared took that story and made it about poo and toilet seats and body heat, I was gonna make it about how one of the reasons that I knew there was something special about my wife when I first met her was that the first time she came over to my place, not only did Bruce go up to her, he allowed her to hold him, which was insane because at that point, Bruce had known my dad for probably 7 years, and I don't think my dad's ever held Bruce. Like, he rarely lets him pet Bruce. It's really weird. So yeah, it is cool that you and him have a special relationship now, and also toilets. Jared, one of the things you and I discussed talking about on today's episode was like a behind the scenes of Oysters, Clams, and Cockles, our House of the Dragon podcast here at Bolen Media, and kind of a look into everything going on there. I first just wanted to explain like what OCC is, because a lot of you, I'm sure, maybe you don't even watch House of the Dragon. Maybe you don't care at all, and that's fine. But it is a huge piece of our company here in Austin, Texas at Bolen Media. So OCC was actually the first podcast I ever started before RBP, back at the company that Jared and I formerly worked at. When I first, our then boss was like, he was telling me I needed to get into podcasting, and I kind of kept like blowing him off. I was like, yeah, whatever, dude. It made it less attractive that he was telling me to do it. And, but I was into Serial, and then I was into these Game of Thrones podcasts. And at one point I was like, man, screw it. It would be really fun to do a Game of Thrones podcast and be able to talk about that every week. It'd at least be a fun way to just see if I enjoy podcasting. And I went to Barrett Dudley and Veronica Ruck at that time and was like, do y'all want to do this Game of Thrones podcast? And I came up with the name Oysters, Clams, and Cockles based on an Arya line from, I believe, season 5, because it stood out to me and I thought it was funny.
Yeah, I always wondered, why did that line stick out to you? And somebody asked you this recently on Twitter, and you responded, because you touch yourself at night. So that didn't give me the answer I wanted.
Because I can't really remember. Like, I always like things that are really distinct. And if you've noticed, all of the Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon podcasts are named like House of the Dragon, but Game of Thrones, like they're not very original. And at that point, it's like no offense to them, but it's like all the same shit. Cast of Kings, like potting the throne, like it's all the same bullshit. And I wanted something that really stood out, and Oysters, Clams, and Cockles was funny to me. Plus, we found the song that goes with it, and I was like, oh, it's over. It's over. This is the name. But yeah, so we launched it, and it went really, really well. So we started in season 6, and we did a podcast for every episode, and then we did season 7, and it got really big and like much larger than anything I had ever done in terms of like regular audience reach. You know, I had written columns that had hit millions of people or gone viral or whatever, and I'd done cool stuff in my career that had done really well and reached a lot of people, but nothing to the extent that Oysters, Clams, and Cockles was doing.
Yeah, what people who aren't in media need to understand is that there's a massive difference between getting 100,000 listens on a podcast that you are speaking on and getting 5 million views on a column you wrote. I would take the podcast a bazillion times out of a bazillion because most people don't even read the name. Most people, it's just like, this is a column on this website. Don't know who the author is. A podcast, the only thing at most of the time is your voice.
Right.
Only thing.
It's a very it's like there's not many areas of media that's the case, right?
Yeah.
Take social media now. It's a perfect example. TikTok. You're just scrolling through 75% of the time. You don't even look at who the fucking author of the post was. You're just watching it and moving on. Now, obviously, TikTok is one of the rare examples where people do feel more inclined to follow creators and find new channels of entertainment on there or whatever. So it's a little bit different. But yeah, it was a massive, massive audience. It was one of the reasons that Bolen Media, if not, it wasn't the sole reason because RBP was very, very large when Bolen Media was founded as well, much larger than it is now. But OCC was one of the reasons that I was able to form this company when I took that IP out of our former company. So it was really, really big during Game of Thrones was my point. We did millions of downloads during the final season. It was insane. More people know me from Oysters, Clams, and Cockles than anything else I've ever done by far, and it's not close.
Even your New York Times bestselling novel?
It's not even close. It's really, really not. It's actually crazy how not close it is. So I would say it's like, so we did like, point being, I knew there was going to be another opportunity to capitalize on the success of Game of Thrones and what we found with OCC. So I wanted to keep the podcast going after Game of Thrones ended, even before we knew there was a prequel. It was always the plan. So Barrett and I did that. We kept it afloat. We covered a bunch of other random shows and shit. We kind of fucked around and like, yeah. We ended up watching the entirety of The Sopranos on Patreon as an example, but we covered a bunch of other really, really good shows on the Oysters, Clams, and Cockles feed that are still available to listen to if you wanted to check them out. But, and then we found out House of the Dragon was coming, right? Actually, before that, we found out another prequel was being made, and that one eventually got shut down. They made the pilot, and HBO said absolutely the fuck not.
This was the sea snake one, right?
It was heartbreaking because I was like, fuck, don't make me wait. And listen, as a fan, it's a double-edged sword because it's like, I really, really, really want the show to be good, but also realize if the show's really, really good, I make a lot more money. Like it makes a huge difference to our opportunity to grow a small business in Austin, Texas. So that's the difference. Like if the show stinks, it obviously is not going to be as easy to make a huge podcast out of it. So when we found out House of the Dragon was coming, we obviously got ready. It came out. It's doing really well through 7 episodes. But as I said before it started, and as I'm reminding you now, it is a huge time suck for us at Bolen Media, with it just being me and Jared, and then Content Cade being here full time every day. Each of us has pretty distinct individual obligations that are being disrupted massively by Oysters, Clams, and Cockles being a focal point for me right now, almost like entirely, because it's such a big opportunity for us to capitalize on. I mean, it's not twice as large as RBP, but it's close. Like, it's significantly larger. Like, we did 250,000 downloads, I think, in September on Oysters, Clams, and Cockles, and RBP did like 135,000. So just to give you like a reference point, it's one of those things where in terms of audience size, in terms of our opportunity to grow the company and everything, we obviously have to give it as much energy as possible. I bet we do 300,000 in October. But so yeah, it started in like 2016 or something crazy like that. Back in season 6 of Game of Thrones was the first one we covered live. After Grand X fell apart, like obviously like Veronica and our relationship kind of, not that it fractured, it's just like we were coworkers and we went our separate ways. And Barrett, because I've known him for 20 years, I was able to get him to come and continue to co-host the show with me and pay him for his services. And so House of the Dragon has been awesome so far. If you don't watch it, you don't need to have seen Game of Thrones. I mean, it probably makes it better, but you don't necessarily need to. There's going to be pieces where you're like, what the fuck are they talking about this and why?
Yeah.
But that's already kind of the whole show anyway.
What's interesting about this prequel is, like, when I think of a prequel, like, a lot of times they make prequels after the thing, so they expect you to go into it with some sort of knowledge about what happens afterwards, despite the fact that it's a prequel. I feel like
it's a little bit weird. It's a weird.
Right?
It's one of the pieces of it that I was like, it's going to be difficult for them to make the stakes feel real. It's one of the things that, as you and I covered Westworld with Freeze All Motor Functions, we noticed when they fucked up season 3, it's because they destroyed the stakes. It just felt like we didn't even know what we were up against, what the pitfalls were. It was just like, oh, all of humanity will die now. It's like, I don't know. This is just kind of, and when you play with the stakes, things get really dangerous, and that's what I was looking out for there. But yeah, it's been awesome. It's been fun. It's just exhausting because we're pumping out marketing constantly to kind of battle upstream against, as I was saying, like, media has never been more, what's the word, oversaturated than it is right now. It's completely out of control.
It's hard to cut through the clutter.
It is, indeed. And as a result, you really have to market yourself if you want to cut through that clutter and have success. So we've been able to do that to a great degree with House of the Dragon so far, and we're having a lot of fun. The TikTok's finally starting to grow a little bit. We got a new intern on there. Shout out to Steph. She's helping us out with our TikTok growth.
Shout outs to Adam, another intern we have.
Yep, Adam's been killing some videos for us. Content Cade has been crushing it. I keep telling him, I'm like, three more weeks, man. He's probably so sick of watching me and Barrett talk about House of the Dragon. But yeah, also OCC, as we call it, Oysters, Clams, and Cockles, has a new YouTube as well as that TikTok I mentioned. What else would you be interested about OCC, Jared? While you think, I have one thing. I always wondered what it would be like to make money off of something I really loved. You know what I mean? Like, it's like a very rare and lucky thing to be able to do. Sports commentator would be an example, right? You really love baseball. You want to become a sports commentator, and you become one. And then you learn all the ins and outs of sports commentating, and it's probably not exactly what you thought it was necessarily. It probably takes a little something away from the game when it's work, and it's not just watching it for your enjoyment, right? It's similar to that, the podcasting experience for me. And I'll tell you, it's gotten easier for me to go back to enjoying the show the more years I've done it. But when we first started, man, like when we did season 6, I remember thinking to myself, like, son of a bitch.
Yeah, you alluded back to Freeze on Motor Functions when we were doing our coverage of season 2, which was like our biggest season because we were covering it live back when we were still
season
working
1
at Grandex.
was a historically well-reviewed and received show, yeah.
I would say season 2 of Westworld was one of the most hyped HBO seasons of any show they had. And it did not live up to expectations, but it was still good.
It was solid. It wasn't great.
We did a lot of numbers that year on Freeze on Motor Functions.
Yeah, it was big.
My ritual that I would do, I would watch it at 8 p.m. right when it aired, no subtitles, straight through. I'd spend about 45 minutes after that playing Rocket League to get my mind at ease while I made coffee because I knew I was about to take notes for 4 hours on my second rewatch with subtitles. And then I would go to bed. I mean, my now fiance can attest to this. I'd go to bed between 2 and 4 a.m., depending on if I got more Rocket League in to clear my mind. And I'd wake up at 8 o'clock. We'd go and record at 9, and I would just have to sit there at my desk the rest of the day like a zombie. It was rough. I've since learned to not do that anymore in the 2 seasons after that. I was like, that was a bit much, and I don't think that the extra torment I'm putting myself through is actually getting any benefits to anybody, including myself.
Oh, man, I wonder who told you that over and over.
It was Ross. Ross told me that every single week.
Yeah, I never did that with OCC because I'm not a crazy person on that level, but I would always watch the show twice. I took a shitload of notes and would have this enormous rundown of like 3,000 words going into every episode, so I was super well prepared, which is funny because now we do the show immediately after the episode airs, and I have some notes.
You still take notes during the episode.
I take notes to make sure that we don't forget anything that happened, because it's hell on earth. It's every there's so many different things we need to discuss. If we just go in without any outline, we're screwed. We still forget things even with the notes. And people yell at us, which
so
thank
there
God
was
for
this
the
conversation between Damon and Rhaenyra on the dance
at the
floor.
wedding party, at the welcome party. I'm fucking aware. Yeah, people yelled that at me. I mean, it's really, really crazy. So the amount of people that listen to OCC, the more people that listen to something, the more feedback you get, obviously. And we get so many people correcting us on stuff. It's absolutely hilarious.
I did have a question.
Hold on, let me. I didn't even get to tell you. Ended up. I was going to say how it has been for me doing a podcast about something I love. Instead, you told us your Westworld experience. But so for the most part, when I first started doing it, I was not really able to enjoy the television show as much anymore, because it was like the amount of pressure from that size of an audience way overwhelmed my ability to still enjoy it, because I was like, I got to make sure I don't forget anything. I got to make sure I have the right takes. I got to make sure that I remember everybody's name. And the more I've gotten used to it over the years, the easier it's gotten to where I can still enjoy the show as I'm taking some like light notes. And especially because I used to have this overwhelming, it was FOMO. I was like, it sucks that I'm not enjoying it like everyone else does the first time through. But I can rewatch it and have that experience too. It's a little different, but that's the sacrifice, right? You know what I mean? Now, sports guys, I don't know how they do that shit, because it's that there's no rewatching a sporting event and enjoying it. You know what I mean?
I've never rewatched a sporting event in my life.
So I guarantee you it takes away from it on a massive level to be able to enjoy the sport as a fan if you're also a commentator. Now, the difference being that there's a lot of games you don't commentate on, so maybe you can still enjoy those. But even then, I don't know, dude. Sometimes I find myself watching TV shows and like I'm doing like a podcast in my head, like a non-Game of Thrones show, and I'm like doing a podcast in my head. I think I've permanently fucked the way I look at TV because of OCC. But it's made us a lot of money, so that's good. I mean, it has. It's been massively successful. Thank God for it. God bless George R.R. Martin. It's fucking hilarious. But like, imagine creating something so large that there are cottage industries that spring up around it. There are people making a living off of how badass your thing is.
That's awesome.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like the ultimate example. Well, that's the ultimate example. But the one I always make is it's funny to me that there's the Joe Rogan experience.
Yes.
That regularly charts in the comedy section on Apple. And I'm just like, are there that many people listening to this? And the answer is yes. That's how big Joe Rogan is. It's fucking crazy. Absolutely blows my mind.
So something I think a lot of OCC listeners will want to know is, how do you deal with it being a seasonal show where OCC is only quote unquote in season every 2 years?
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be the new thing we have to figure out, because I don't think they're going to come back in 2024. And it's a two-part answer, because right now we're covering the show on Patreon and on the ad-based that everybody gets on Spotify and YouTube and everywhere. And what we did on Patreon before House of the Dragon started is, I think, what we will do again, is pick a show, probably like a classic like The Wire or like
Burn Notice.
Burn Notice, perhaps, Jared, and do that episodically. But on the ad-based show, I'm not really sure. We may just end up shutting it down entirely between seasons, because I don't know if it makes sense for us to do it. Like, we tried it. It was fun talking about all these other random TV shows and shit, but like, the audience was much smaller, and the amount of money and time and effort and energy it costs us as a company, like you and me and Cade, and on top of that, Barrett.
Yeah, with Barrett not being a full-time employee.
Yeah, because Barrett has a full-time job. And that's the other thing that's interesting about OCC that we have to balance just from a business perspective, is that Barrett works full-time at Howler Brothers. Shout out to Howler Brothers. I'm wearing one of their hats today, by the way. And as a result, we have to schedule around that. And he has a limited amount of energy and effort to put towards the OCC stuff. So we have to pick up a lot of that slack on the Bolen Media side as far as the marketing goes and the production and everything else goes. Barrett's phenomenal, but yeah, he's not full-time here, so it definitely changes the dynamic for us in terms of in-house workload, which is why RBP hasn't been put on the back burner necessarily. It's still my baby. It's got my name on it. But y'all, for those of y'all who are like, why haven't there been as many episodes? I know. I appreciate you. The fact that anybody cares that the show isn't coming out as frequently means a lot to me. But once House of the Dragon is done, it will pick up more, I promise you. And y'all will feel the love. Absolutely. But we got to take advantage. It's huge for our company, huge opportunity. Other things with OCC. Oh, this is interesting to me. I don't think maybe one thing we were invited to some kind of. No, that was for Westworld.
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever been invited to a single official thing as a result of Oysters, Clams, and Cockles, which is just interesting because we've frequently charted as, not during House of the Dragon, but during Game of Thrones, the #1 Game of Thrones podcast in the world. And for House of the Dragon, technically, we're the #1 rated House of the Dragon podcast in the world. But we still chart very well. Like, we've been in the top 50 TV and film on Apple Podcasts and top 30 on Spotify and TV and film for the whole season. But
and I looked, the episodes also are top 50, which is even more. That's even more impressive.
Oh, I guess the first relationship we actually got was like, it's a secondary relationship to HBO. It's the company that represents their merchandise marketing, and we're doing some marketing to sell some HBO merch for House of the Dragon merch specifically, I should say. But that's it, which is always, it was kind of disappointing. I always thought I'd be invited to like cool comic con, but maybe we have to get even bigger. Maybe that's the next level. Who the hell knows?
Tossing back sprites with like Patty Considine.
I don't know. Not necessarily. No, but I thought we'd get like, I thought we'd get invited to like the premiere or some shit. You know what I mean? I don't know. I always have, Jared, you have to remember this about me. When the stupid Total Frat Move book came out, all right, and it was number 8 on the nonfiction, whatever, New York Times bestseller list, I think. I might be not correct. You can Google it. Just Google me. I thought I was going to be invited on, like, Late Night with fucking Jimmy Kimmel. Like, I thought I was going to be on, like, Letterman. That's where I'm dead serious.
Our next guest needs an introduction. Who the fuck is this guy?
That's what I'm saying. I have absolutely no concept for fame at all. At all. I really, really did think that. Like, and not for a long period of time. It's not for like months. I was walking around like, I think I might be about to be super famous. But for like a few days there, after I found out it was on the charts, I was like, any minute now, I could get hit up by Letterman. Like, I really believed that, and I was incorrect. Never got that call.
That was back when you were drinking.
I was probably drunk. Yes, that's fair. Which is also a testament to weed, because I don't think anything nearly that stupid anymore. But I really believed that shit, bro. I thought I was about to be mad famous. I was like, my grandma's going to be watching me on Letterman. This is going to be crazy. How am I going to explain what this book is about? I make weird boner jokes. But it all worked out.
How did you celebrate that?
What, the New York Times bestseller? Oh, I probably got absolutely blackout drunk. That was it.
Is like, it's fitting.
It was fitting, but it's like, the fact that I don't even know is kind of part of the reason I quit drinking. Just because, like, that was the only reason to any question I ever had for anything. What'd you do to celebrate? Oh, I got shit-faced. That was it. I don't remember anything else other than that. Yeah. Any other OCC questions? No?
You pretty much answered all the ones I had. I'm trying to think of what another.
It's really fun. It's cool because it's a super different audience.
Yeah.
RBP was very much like in mass the TFM audience. A lot of y'all came from TFM. A lot of people did. That's changed more in the past couple years, but originally that was very much the core of it. Whereas OCC was super broad. It was just people who watched Game of Thrones. So it was just random ass fucking 56-year-old.
Random ass fucking 56-year-old.
Random ass fucking. No,
wow.
like random 56-year-old like Nigerian women would like comment on our Instagram and stuff. And it was like, holy shit, this is crazy. You know what that's. You have a very international audience with your F1 show.
Yes, I have a Formula One brand called Formula Bone, and my audience is very international. Today alone, we had people buy Formula Bone merch in India, in Netherlands, and what was the third one?
I can't remember, but watching them roll in is hysterical. And Jared and I were talking about the interesting thing about Formula Bone and the Formula Bone F1 show is that it has grown insanely on YouTube, where he has over 70,000 subscribers now. And I think you said 80% of them are international?
Something like that.
Which is like, that's just a mind-blowing. I mean, I've grown and helped grow, I don't know, 10 different brands probably in my career, Not a single one of them ever took off really big internationally. And the first thing Jared birthed is like this massive international F1 show, which is just really, really funny because it's just we're shithead American. I've never even been to Europe.
What?
I've never been to Europe.
Every time you say this, it blows my freaking mind.
Yeah, it is kind of crazy. I'm 35 years old.
We need to send you and Cade to just do a European vlog. He just follows you around and vlogs you in Europe.
I think when I go, I'll go without Cade, but no offense to Cade, just,
Be kind of romantic. I don't know.
If we could find a way to get that sponsored so that it's paid for and he just films me. 24 hours a day like the Truman Show, though.
I got a question for you.
Even while I poo.
What do you think the crossover is of people who found you through OCC, then going and listening to RBP?
It's a lot. A lot of those people, too. The bulk of our audience now is probably those people, and then people who found us for mental health stuff, and then, like, we have a lot of TFM people left. I think it's just, the more open-minded ones are still here. The less open-minded ones, not so much, which has also just been an interesting thing to monitor over the years. Like, the way the audience changes for RBP, it didn't change at all for OCC. It's the exact same fucking people, just these fantasy TV dorks like me. So, yeah, it's fun, man. It's just mad stressful, as you know. With it's like when you have seasons now on Formula Bowen. You have F1 season, and during the season, you have to bust your ass.
Yeah,
and that's all in all. The point of that was to say, here's some stuff about OCC, and also why Jared and me are mad busy as hell, and y'all are wondering where we are and why we're not here together as frequently. But we're here today, Jared.
We are here today, and kind of a point to that is, if you're ever like, man, I wish I could listen to Jared and Ross, you can go listen to Oysters, Clams, and Cockles while you're watching House of the Dragon, or you can go watch the Formula One F1 show.
Also true.
For F1.
Also true. Or you can go to patreon.com/Ross Bolen Podcast and get some more episodes with Jared and I on there as well.
A lot of episodes. There's so freaking many. If you've never been a patron and you want more RBP, literally go right now, put $5 in, and you can spend the entire month listening to RBP.
Honestly, I was trying to think of a way to give people a teaser of the last episode, because it's one of the funniest things I've ever been a part of recording. Like, I laughed harder and cried more during Cade's story about working at that bachelorette party than I have in a really, really long time.
That story was so much more crazy than I thought it was going to be.
It's difficult to give a teaser, though. Like, of a chunk of it, I was trying to get like 10, 15 minutes that I could put in this episode for everybody, and I just couldn't do it. So you're just going to have to take my word for it. A lot of the Patreon stuff is pure like gold, but this was ridiculously next level. The most recent episode we recorded was with Jared and I interviewing Cade essentially about his experience being asked by a member of his gym, hey, you want to make some extra money this weekend, and then everything that follows. And I say that only to say that Cade will be co-hosting with me this Friday because J-Bone's going to a wedding.
I am going to a wedding.
Patreon.com/Ross Bolen Podcast. But yeah, speaking of Game of Thrones and watching TV, today's episode is also brought to you by Felix Gray Glasses. 5 years ago, Felix Gray set out to create eyewear that would improve daily screen time, and since then, they've been on a mission to create a better relationship with technology. Felix Gray lenses filter 15 times more blue light that can make screen time tough on eyes and disruptive to sleep. I've been working on the internet for a very, very long time now, over 10 years, and staring at screens all freaking day, and I've been wearing contacts and glasses since I was like 12. My eyes get worn the hell out. When I'm done with work, I like to relax by watching my favorite shows and movies and gaming, all of which involve even larger, more intense screens. So a few years ago when I was introduced to Felix Gray's, everything changed. These glasses are the quality of designer frames. It's not some cheap blue light coating painted over them that's going to chip off. That never happens. There's no chipping, no cheapness, just incredible quality designer frames that are stylish and functional as they protect your eyes from all the blue light that the screens we rely upon emit. If you're like me, tough to cut back on screen time, but you can do your eyes a solid and get yourself some Felix Grays to get relief from those headaches, dry eyes, blurry vision, and what have you that occurs over the course of your workday. I've got like 6 pairs now. My favorite frames for you to check out that I would recommend would be the Faraday, the Nash, and the West. Go to felixgrayglasses.com/RBP to support the show, and you'll get free shipping, free returns, and free exchanges. They've got non-prescription and prescription available. Check them out now. felixgrayglasses.com/RBP. That's FELIXGRAY glasses.com/RBP for free shipping, free returns, and free exchanges. I noticed earlier that on this date in 1999, my Houston Texans were established.
Congratulations.
The NFL team that I've been rooting for ever since. And
former season ticket holder you are.
Yeah, for several years. I think like 6 years there. So, in light of the fact that they have failed to win a single game this season, I believe they're 0-3-1. We did get a tie there to start things out.
You did?
That was a real exciting barn burner, that was. But in light of that fact, I thought I would reflect on how miserable of an experience this has been for me. When I found out Houston was getting an NFL team, I was extremely excited. I was a wee lad. What is that? 23. I was 12.
How long did you go from when the Oilers left to be going to Tennessee? And when the
What
Texans were
year
it wasn't that
did
long.
the Oilers leave?
It was a weird
It was
gap.
1997. Okay, so from 97 to 99, is that? No, that's not right. Sorry. 96? Yeah, 96. Man, it wasn't that long.
That's what I'm saying. That was such a
It
small
felt like
gap.
a really long time in
Why
my
is
head.
the gap so small?
I don't know. But the funny thing is, so many people jumped over to the Cowboys bandwagon. And now that I'm reflecting back on it, you guys are weak. Weak as hell. 3 years?
Well, they probably didn't know it was going to be
and I don't
that
think
long.
the season, I don't know that they
Short.
played a game in 1999. Like, that's when they were established, I think. They were awarded the franchise in 1999, so surely they didn't play in 1999.
Well, they need to go through a draft first, don't they?
But the point is, I got really, so they went through the expansion draft, all that, blah, blah, blah. But I got really, really excited, and obviously Texas football is a big deal here in the state as a whole. I've never been a Cowboys fan. I grew up with a lot of Aggies, watching Aggie football.
Ugh.
I liked the NFL, though, and I loved playing like NFL Blitz and shit, and I wanted an NFL team, and it stunk that we didn't have one. So when I found out we were getting one, I was stoked. Then I found out the name of the team, and I was like, what the hell happened here? Texans? That's Houston Texans? So immediately, not a good start. I was like, okay, this is, okay, not great branding. Logo, well, it's like a bold flag or whatever.
People
Fuck
have been shitting on like the Cleveland Guardians and the Washington Commanders.
because those stink.
But
Texans stinks too. Nobody can come up with a good name anymore. Nobody can come up with a good name. Those are all terrible.
I will say that I can picture in my brain, there's one good team name to come out of the last 5 years.
What is it?
The Seattle Kraken.
What league is that?
NHL.
Why'd they have to change it? What racist organization were they before?
New expansion team.
Oh, okay, cool.
But from what I understand,
That's not bad. I like that. Kraken is okay.
I believe Eastern Washington is pretty racist.
Point being, it's pretty rare. Texans, not great. And then we drafted David Carr with the first pick in the history of the team, I think.
Pretty good.
Number one pick in the draft. And he wasn't bad. It didn't matter that he was good or bad. There was no offensive line. So he nearly died every week. And he was sacked like 57 times a game, and it was a franchise and NFL record or some shit. Seriously, I don't think he ever recovered from that first season. But the point is, at no point in the entire existence of this franchise have we been a realistic Super Bowl contender.
Liar.
With Matt Schaub,
No, with Deshaun Watson that one year.
a Super Bowl
Yeah,
contender?
it was like what 2017. Didn't you guys?
We didn't even make it to the conference championship. We've never made it to the conference championship. We've never done a single meaningful thing. And Jared, the year you're referring to when Deshaun, we got to the playoffs and almost made a run and didn't. That was the first time we had hope to be a Super Bowl contender. And then Deshaun Watson, who the team had pinned their entire future on, obviously, it turned out had some issues sexually with masseuses. Like 66 of them or something crazy like that he ordered through Instagram. But the whole franchise fell back apart. The only time we were sort of competitive, I remember thinking, man, we won 12 games. We went 12-4. We might be good. We got Matt Schaub, and we got Andre Johnson and Arian Foster, former friend of the Ross Bolen podcast. Well, I guess he's still a friend of the show. He's been on here a few times. I love Arian. But the point is, we went to the playoffs. We got the fucking shit kicked out of us in the second round. Didn't make it to the conference championship. Patriots or Chiefs every time beat us by 45, and then we went back to our hole. And that's been the experience of being a Texans fan this whole time. So I'm just saying, if you're in some city and you're like, oh, I wish we'd get a football team. Yeah, maybe don't though, because I got a football team, and nothing fucking good has come of it. And it's miserable having a bad football team. It's much worse than having a bad baseball team or a bad basketball team where you can just fucking tune out the NBA or MLB for a few years and not care until they get good again. I've done it with baseball. I've never done it with basketball, but I could if I had to. I don't want to. NFL is fucking impossible. It's impossible to tune out football season. It can't be done. So you just have to watch your team shit the bed every Sunday on repeat, year after year.
Okay, did you?
Lovie Smith?
That's bad.
David Culley? Bill O'Brien? I'm naming the last 3 coaches, one of which was handed the fucking GM seat as well. He's now an assistant coach to Nick Saban. That man was running the entire franchise. It's an embarrassment. We stink. Anyway, Jared, my point is it hasn't been great.
But didn't you think when you guys were up like 24 points on the Chiefs in the playoffs that you're like, wow, we're beating the Chiefs by like 21 or 24. Remember that? And then they came back and they beat your ass.
Yeah, that was the moment of hope.
But had you deluded yourself when you went up 21 on the Chiefs? Did you go, wow, we have this in the bag, or did you go, no, we're gonna blow this?
I was somewhere in between because it was just like, I know the team. I mean, and we hadn't proven anything yet. And that's my point about Deshaun when he was with the Texans. Like, we never did that thing to prove like we were a legit contender. We came close in that game, but it just never happened. So 23 years of hell at this point.
I'm sorry.
And I just hope, like, I always imagined I'd be able to raise my kids as Texans fans.
Sounds
I've
abusive.
got buddies taking their little boy and girl, their little daughter and son to Texans games, and asking themselves and texting our group text like saying like, I feel bad about this. Like, I feel bad about saddling him with this. Like, that's where we're at. It's like a Browns level thing now. It's generational. It's getting fucking sad in there.
Wait, the thing is this though, didn't they do some study that's like a team can't be bad for that long? Like,
we are breaking all normal rules, dude. Like, the fucking, listen to this. The Rams moved to Los Angeles and immediately won a Super Bowl. We haven't even been to a conference championship, and this team has existed for 23 years. How does that happen?
I don't know. Both teams that I've been a fan of, the Bucks and the Packers, have won Super Bowls, multiple in one case in my lifetime.
Sick.
But to be fair,
The Badgers suck, though, now.
Badgers are terrible. We just fired our head coach, Paul Chryst.
But they've been very good recently, too, so it's like, you know what it's like.
Yeah, we went undefeated like 5 years ago in the regular season.
Got disrespected.
No, we lost in the championship game badly, and we went, it was bad. But I will say, to all the Badger fans listening, I know there's like 2 of you out there.
Go Badge.
Greener pastures ahead. Paul Chryst, I loved him. His time was up. He's gone. Jim Leonard is going to be the interim coach now. Jim Leonard, I love him. I don't know if I want him to be head coach yet. I want him to be head coach eventually, but I might want him to leave for a little bit. I do want Lance Leopold, the head coach of Kansas, to be our next head coach personally. If I'm not really feeling him by the end of the year, again, love Jim Leonard. Him or
Sure,
Lance Leopold,
Leonard.
great options. You know Lance Leopold.
No.
Kansas is, are they ranked?
No, I don't know.
For the first time since 2009?
What? Also, I will say this, Texans fans. I don't see greener pastures on the horizon. I don't think things are going to get better, and I wouldn't raise your stock very high. If you listen to my Houston sports podcast, Banging the Can, you would know my advice is to lower your expectations as much as humanly possible, because this franchise flat out stinks, Jared. Speaking of sports, today's episode is also brought to you by MyBookie. I've been betting on sports for like 15 years now. One of the ways I get through Texans games is sometimes by betting against them. Actually, the other week, I bet against them, and they fucked me. They lost the game, and they didn't let the other team cover, and it was a brutal day of Texans
It's your
fanhood
fault
for
for
me.
doing a bet where that was a possible outcome.
Yeah, well, it was my fault. I made the wrong decision. But the point is, betting on sports is often the thing that makes them even more fun for me personally. Super enjoy it. If you have a crappy sports team that you're looking to make more fun, perhaps MyBookie is the way. It's a fantastic platform with everything you need to enjoy the very best sports betting time of the year, where the NFL, college football, basketball, MLB playoffs, start of the NBA, it's all overlapping. It's orgasmic sports betting paradise. Whether you're a seasoned bettor or a first-timer, MyBookie gets you the most for your money with a double deposit bonus up to $1,000 when you use the code RBP at sign-up with your first deposit. Stipulations apply, but it's simple. Let's say you're looking to bet the MLB playoffs or start of the MLB or NBA regular season or golf or MMA or whatever sport you fancy. You go to MyBookie. and you deposit $250 to play with the code RBP, well, then you're going to get that amount doubled. So you'll have $500 in your account, and then you can have twice as much fun with your trash NFL team. Code RBP at MyBookie to claim your deposit bonus, and you can use your funds to bet on as many individual games, contests, or props as you want. Team totals, predict the Super Bowl winner. Use the MyBookie prop builder to give yourself the edge you need to secure the bag. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie. Just use code RBP when you sign up to unlock that double deposit bonus and let them know we sent you. Jared, I tweeted about this, but what you remember when you were growing up? What were the oldies?
The like the Eagles
and like the Beach Boys?
Yeah, I think so.
So for me, it was like the Beach Boys, the Beatles to some extent, the Eagles. Like there was some classic rock mixed in, but it was like even older than that. Oh, Elvis was oldies to me. So a lot of stuff from like the 60s. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I was born in 87, so let's just call it 30 years, all right? But when I was in the 90s, the stuff from the 60s was oldies, all right?
Yeah.
Which would mean that now in 2022, what's 30 years ago? 92?
I think the oldies are still the same.
So the category for you did not change?
Nope.
So what happens to old rap?
I do not know.
I don't think anybody does yet. Is because like the stuff I listened to in high school should start to be considered like oldies soon. But if you called like, that just wouldn't make sense. It just wouldn't make sense. Some of those artists are still very relevant today. It would just be weird. I don't know. I'm just curious to see what happens there. Because there was oldies station. I bet it would be called throwback. Because there was oldies stations that would just play that old shit.
Yeah.
And I would bet there will be throwback stations, if there aren't already, that just play old rap music. That would make sense.
I mean, I think now there's a good distinction of like decade, right? I don't know if oldies is like in vogue anymore because we've had, to your point, 40 more years of music after oldies was a thing. It used to be like current music and the oldies. Now it's every decade has its own music. And by genre, there's too much music nowadays. Too much music.
Dude, speaking of music, I figured out the other day why Kanye West has started putting out all this gospel stuff and editing curse words out of all the rap songs.
Is God handing him the bag?
Well, that too. But it's because he has kids and he got sick of not being able to listen to his own music in the car with them.
Actually?
I'm serious. It's complicated. All of my favorite songs have terrible words in them. And phrases and things that no child should hear. But so can I just not listen to my music when like
I mean, yeah, you shouldn't listen to Dance with the Devil with your children.
My toddler in the car?
Yeah. Should probably just hit skip on that one.
All right, so I know, but like where's the line, And I think that problem is what drove Kanye West to do what he's done.
Is he releasing that music?
Not lose his mind and like terrorize people but yeah, he did that in his last 2 albums. 0 curse words, not a single one. There's even curse words that are said that he bleeped out. Or blanked out entirely. Like that are like other rappers in guest verses dropped curse words and he took them out entirely. It's really funny.
Wait, so are there uncensored versions?
I mean, somewhere in the world, but not available to listen to. I'm dead serious.
I wonder.
Because the question became, how do we reach these kids?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, happy 29th birthday to Sam. Enjoy the backaches. Rest in peace to Coolio.
Oh, yeah. Damn.
Gangster's Paradise, that's a forever banger. I still throw that on sometimes and sit there and feel like cold-blooded as hell for a few minutes and then go back to my normal pussy-ass self.
Does he have another song?
I mean, he made albums, yeah, but that's the only one that really matters historically, I think. No offense to his memory. It's an all-time great song.
Yeah, I don't know any of these other songs.
I'll say this about Coolio. He's one of those dudes that ended up on the frat party circuit, and I always know something's gone wrong financially if you're on the frat party circuit, and that worried me some.
He's got a song. I clicked on one of his albums.
Yeah?
Where he has his, it's called It Takes a Thief.
Oh, I think that's another famous one. Was that his first album, perhaps? His first album title?
1994. Coolio, was he in the Did he do the Keenan and Kel
Show?
theme?
Did he?
I'm looking at the picture of him on this album, and I think he might have.
Oh, here it goes. Song by Keenan and Kel.
Yep.
Oh,
Coolio.
Yeah.
I just saw him in this album cover, and I was like, that looks like the guy from Keenan and Kel.
Holy shit. Yeah.
Well, that's cool. I wonder if they gave him any. Anyways, point being,
All-time crazy ass hair though.
Yeah, that's. I was gonna say he has very notable hair, and here's a song called "Hand on My Nutsack."
Oh. Hey, Coolio, what do you want to title this one? Fuck it, let's just call it "Hand on My Nutsack." That's a cold-blooded move, dude.
Nutsack is spelled Nutsac with the AC capitalized.
Hell yeah,
What does
dude.
that mean? There's gotta be a meaning to that.
If you don't know, you can't afford it, dude.
I guess so. Hand on my nutsack.
You don't know, you can't afford it. Go to
Rest in peace.
bolenmedia.com/shop. Get yourself some merch for all of our brands. RBP. Got good stuff in there. The finishing cups flying off the shelves, folks. I'm not joking.
I
even.
cannot believe how many finishing cups we're selling.
It's really getting to be very, very funny. But it is a great cup, and it is for finishing. So if you're a finisher, you need somewhere to finish, and that cup is the place, Jared.
Finishers only.
Finishers only. Finishing cups available at bolenmedia.com/shop, along with other goods and wares. But that's really the only one you need to know about.
The hat I'm wearing.
Oh, J-Bone's got a Payne F1 team
If
hat
you're,
on.
you know, I'll say it.
It's an homage to being a fan of
The American F1 team. Am I allowed to say it?
the American F1 team.
There's only one. You know who I'm talking
Yes,
about.
the American F1 team.
It's painful to be a fan of them, and I made a hat to commemorate that.
I've seen some sales of that going out to like Yugoslavia and shit.
I just sold 2 to Alaska today.
Sick. That's not a foreign country, but it's still detached.
It's further away than a lot of foreign
I think
countries.
it counts. The further the hat is sold to, the better. Right?
Yeah, it's crazy. We sold to Netherlands. We sold to like Scotland. I sold to Alaska. I sold to India.
Let me hear from all the RBP international listeners.
Yeah.
If you're listening and you're international, holler at me at WR Bolen on Twitter and Instagram, at Jared Borislow on Twitter and Instagram. Follow us on TikTok at the Ross Bolen Podcast.
You bring up
And
a
on
good point.
Instagram and Twitter at Ross Bolen Pod.
Remember the RBP European correspondent who would call into the Hotline Club episodes?
Yeah, that guy was awesome.
Very noticeable lack of merch sales from the RBP European gang. They need to up their numbers.
Yeah, that guy needs to get on his grind. We also need to get back into the hotline here.
Yeah,
the
we
RBP
do.
hotline. It's been a while. Usually on patreon.com/Ross Bolen Podcast, we mix in some hotline episodes, but it's been a minute, so we'll do that soon.
888-WR Bolen.
Yeah, that's the hotline number, baby. Get on patreon.com/Ross Bolen Podcast for a chance to hear your call played and responded to soon. Also, just to hear the ad-free episodes that Jared and I have been doing every week for some time now. There's a bunch in the backlog you immediately gain access to when you join, and then Kate and I will be on this next week. And as I said, one of the funniest episodes we've ever done last week on patreon.com.
Ross was crying multiple different times.
Like, really hard. I almost had to stop the show for the first time ever because I was like, I'm not sure I can compose myself. This is getting really obnoxious how long I've been crying laughing here.
What a story.
Patreon.com/Ross Bolen Podcast. Appreciate y'all. Check out Formula Bone F1 show, YouTube. Check out Oysters, Clams, and Cockles, bolenmedia.com. Check us out. Check it out. Check. Until next time, peace be with you. And also with you.